Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision further down the road. Today, we'll be talking about a display advertising business for sale, and I've got the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Andrew. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks very much for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure.
The pleasure's all ours for sure. Definitely looking forward to talking about your business. Just before we dive deeper, let me give a very brief summary for our listeners. So today's listing is a display advertising, Amazon Associates, affiliate and info product business created in June 2018 in the hobbies niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $22,476. And it makes an average of $22,356 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are the domain and all of the site's contents and files, an email list with around 4,800 subscribers, social media accounts, and a digital product. Head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 54245 to learn more about the business, or you can unlock the listing if you want to start your due diligence. So, Andrew, that's a very brief and general overview about the business, but let's find out about yourself. Can you share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Yes, Vinny. So I became interested in starting an online business about 3.5 or 4 years ago as a way just to make a little of extra money for my family. I'd always had a really entrepreneurial streak and thought running an online business was a great idea because I could do it in my spare time. I have another fairly full-time job, so that really suited me very well. I tried a number of different avenues before discovering niche sites or blogs and explored a number of possibilities to start one. I actually built up one other site before this current site. It was much smaller and was a short build-out process that took maybe 3 or 4 months. And it took what I'd learned from building that first site and started the current site that I'm selling. I've been working full-time or a lot of hours over the last 3 years on this site. Pretty much all my spare time has been spent working hard on this site and building it up. And it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, I think that was really great that you managed to go from working your full-time job and deciding you want to create a bit of side income, and sort of one thing, I guess, led to another. From that smaller site, you took those learnings and then, snowballed that learning trajectory and started applying it into this one to scale this one into what it is today. Just out of curiosity, what is your background in pre-display advertising and all this stuff?
Well, I actually work as a GP in Northern Ireland, so I studied at Queen's University in Belfast, and I've been qualified for about 14 years and working as a GP for about 10 years now. So I currently actually still work 4 days a week as a GP, so everything that I've done so far with this site has been done in weekends and long nights, long evenings, and the other day that I have off during the week.
Gotcha. Okay. So providing healthcare by day and building online businesses by night, I see. Awesome. So you were sharing about the general journey of how you started learning these skills. What gave you the inspiration to start a business or site in this niche in particular?
Well, I chose this niche because I had a genuine interest in the niche and I knew it was something that I wanted to learn more about. And it's quite a big niche, a broad niche, and quite a technical niche. So I knew there was a lot I could learn myself, and I knew there was a lot of value that I could provide in, writing articles that would help other people. It's a popular niche that a lot of people would be interested in. So I thought the addressable market was big. It's quite an evergreen niche. So I thought the things that I write will be relevant for a long time to come. It's not a particularly product-focused niche. And, I thought this maybe would reduce the amount of competition among other people starting niche sites. But I think it all came down to the interest that I had in it. I knew this was something that I could potentially work a lot of hours on and not lose interest in.
Yeah, gotcha. So it started off as some vested interest in the niche itself, and then as you were digging further into it, you managed to find out that, I think it might be quite evergreen and potentially profitable if you manage to find the right keywords, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I noticed as I was reading the breakdown of your business earlier, it's monetized in a few different ways. Can you just briefly share, how does the business make money?
Yeah, absolutely. So it makes the majority of its money through advertising. I serve ads through AdThrive, and it makes well into the 90% of its revenue through this. I also have some affiliate marketing, 2 main affiliates. One is Amazon, and then there's another company that I run affiliate links to. I've also written an ebook on the topic of the niche, and I sell that through the website. What I would say is I'm not an expert by any means in terms of the monetization. I focused almost all of my efforts in building out the site and building the content. And I think that probably is reflected in the fact that advertising makes up such a large proportion of the revenue. And I think that's one of the main attractions for a buyer in this business, that they could hopefully improve the other monetization streams and take the business to another level that maybe I'm not able to do as a sole entrepreneur.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great bit of honest reflection there. And also therein lies potential growth opportunity, like you say, for buyers who maybe have the right expertise or affiliate chops to perhaps take this in a different direction. And we'll touch more on the opportunities further on in the interview, for sure. But I just want to take this time to ask you, because our listeners will be wondering as well, that why are you choosing to sell the business at this moment in time instead of staying with it and growing it?
That's a really good question, Vinny, and it's one that has really conflicted me over the last few months. I suppose I've been working on the business very hard for 3 years, and one of the reasons is that it's actually growing quicker than I expected, and it's now making a really good revenue, and hence the business is worth quite a considerable amount of money, and that would be a life-changing sum for me. It would make a real difference in my life, so that's one of the main reasons that I'm selling it. The other reason is, obviously, I do have a job and enjoy my other job. I've also got a young family, and I don't have time to do everything, so something has to give. And we decided it wasn't the right time for me to quit my job and go full-time being an online entrepreneur, so we thought that selling the business was the right way forward.
That makes sense. And unfortunately, time is the most gated resource of them all, because there's no way to get any back or earn more. We can only choose how we're going to spend it. So it makes sense. It definitely sounds like there's a lot on your plate with a young family and all the other things that are pulling you, well, your attention anyway. So yeah, for sure. Let me just move over then in terms of your experience of building and scaling this business. What would you say were some of the things that you found just really worked for you? Things that you think you can apply to building future sites or businesses if you were going to go down that route?
Well, I think the one thing that really worked was focusing on quality. I initially started building this site out with the intention of hiring a lot of freelancers and moving into more of an editorial role. But really quite quickly, I discovered that the standard material that I was putting out wasn't sufficiently good, and I reverted to having much stricter control over the quality. Everything I've written on the site, I have tried to make it the absolute best, most helpful resource that is out there on the internet, in the hopes that the quality will rise to the top. That's what I'll take forward to further businesses, build quality, because that's what people want. The whole reason that we're starting businesses is to help people. The revenue that we're making off it is a side effect of helping people, or that's how it should be. And I think that's how you build a sustainable business. And I think that's what probably gives your online business longevity, if you're providing something with true value rather than you looking for a shortcut or a quick win, which might look like it's working in the first place, but might not be quite as sustainable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you make. Quite a number of SEOs in our space as well, that when they talk about trying to rank for keywords and stuff like that, I think the temptation for a lot of people trying to build their sites is to try and squeeze as many keywords and stuff in a bid to rank higher for search intent. But, at the end of the day, that, like you said, the content has to be useful to a large degree. Otherwise, even if it ranks, people are going to click on it and they're going to be like, what the heck is this? It doesn't make sense. It's pigeon English, whatever's been written here. So for sure, it absolutely has to be useful to the reader, to the consumer first and foremost. And like you say, the revenue is hopefully a natural side effect as a result of you actually helping your audience. So that's a really good shout. When you were first starting off, were there any sort of software or tools that just really helped you build a business?
I wouldn't say there were an awful lot of bits of software that I used. In terms of keyword research, I just generally brainstormed on Google to, think of topics to write about. I used a Chrome browser plugin called Keywords Everywhere to give me some idea of how much traffic the keywords were getting and the competition for those. I've also used things like Keyword Sheeter, which spits out a load of potential keywords. And that's good for ideation, giving me an idea of the potential topics in the niche that I could cover. There are a few other websites that I generally use for ideation, but I think I've got a reasonably good handle on the niche before coming into it, and it's a big niche, and there certainly didn't seem to be any shortage of things to write about.
So I guess on that front, was there any one or any resources that you just found really helpful? You get skilled up in terms of building content sites or just learning more maybe about the niche? It could be certain communities or YouTubers or just anything like that.
Well, the main people that have taught me to do what I have done with this site it's a business called Income School. So they're really a group of guys who teach people how to write, helpful blog posts that are going to rank on Google. So they've been hugely helpful. Their online community is very good for bouncing ideas off other bloggers for what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. Jim and Ricky are definitely, I think a lot of people's resources, or at least make like the top 5 when it comes to content sites. So definitely makes sense. We were just sharing about what strategies worked for you. I suppose on the other hand, was there anything that you tried that wasn't giving you the ROI that you were hoping for?
Good question. I suppose initially outsourcing to inexperienced writers is probably one strategy which didn't work desperately well because the quality of the content that I was getting back wasn't great and it required a lot of editing. I'm not too sure. I drive a fair bit of traffic through Pinterest to this niche site, and Pinterest is quite a lot of work to keep it going, and I'm not particularly up to speed with the best practices on Pinterest. So I don't know whether my time would have been better spent something other than Pinterest. Maybe it's something that didn't quite work as well as it could have, although I think it gave this site quite a lot of early traction, which was good.
Yeah, makes sense. So, like I say, it might have been more effort than it was worth outsourcing to perhaps more inexperienced writers. Because, like you say, the amount of effort and work it took for you to edit those posts afterwards kind of, like you say, continuing Pinterest after the early stages, maybe that time could have been better spent somewhere else, which I think is always going to be the case as you're growing a site. It's going to be a lot of forks in the roads and choosing, do I continue with this or do I continue that? Do I try another path to keep growing it as well? So difficult choices for sure. You were just mentioning about traffic and Pinterest. What do you currently do in terms of marketing for the time being?
The only marketing I do is actually through Pinterest. So I usually just spend a few hours every month making new pins and schedule them out through Tailwind to go live through the month. So that's how I keep my Pinterest account going. Other than that, I just write content that is going to the served queries on Google. I try and target fairly low competition articles. So that's the main things that I do. I don't actively promote the site in any other way. Sort of let Google do its thing and Pinterest ticks along in the background.
Yeah, sounds like the majority of the traffic is also organic. So as we all know, that's pretty hands off. Once you've published the content, traffic sort of trickles in as and when. So outside of Pinterest, what else do you do to maintain the business? I guess, can you describe what are some of the daily or even the weekly tasks that you do for maintenance?
Yeah, good question, Vinny. I suppose this is a very hands-off business because once the content is written, it does just sit on Google and they're evergreen topics that are hopefully going to rank for a long time. In terms of what I actually do day to day, I obviously check in on the site and make sure that the visitors are still coming and the plugins are up to date. I have one regular writer who is exceptionally good, and he writes sort of 1 or 2 articles a week for me. So I edit them, do internal links and images and optimize it for SEO and publish that. I usually write 1 article a week myself. And other than that, not an awful lot. Obviously, about once a month, as I said, I bulk produce Pinterest pins and schedule them out. That really is about it, to be honest with you. So I think the amount of work that's required in running the site, it's entirely variable in terms of how much time you want to spend writing or editing new content. Going forward, certainly either whoever buys it or whoever sells it, the one thing I would work on is the monetization, because that's something I've badly neglected.
Mm-hmm. Let's continue with that train of thought then. I mean, if you did stay with the business, what were some of the ways that you try to expand it and grow it?
That's a really good question, Vinny, because it's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. The main thing with this website is I've really neglected the monetization, and it's largely been a mental block. It's something that I've been reluctant to do because I haven't wanted to interfere with a formula that's working. And obviously the site's earning very well for me. So my attitude has been, a bird in the hands, better than 2 in the bush. What I would really do is I would go through all my articles and try and optimize them for, affiliate marketing. There are plenty of opportunities to link to affiliate products, and I'm very confident that you could increase the affiliate revenue multiple times over. I would also push people to my ebook a lot more. It's a good ebook. A lot of effort went into making it, and I think the sales of that could be increased just with some good marketing strategies. I would probably also bundle it up with a group of digital products to make it a more attractive proposition. Other than that, I think there are an awful lot of opportunities for this site just to optimize it further. There is a sort of a small YouTube channel that goes along with this site, and that could be grown out and integrated into the website to improve monetization.
Yeah, that's fantastic. There's definitely lots of avenues for growth there, both in terms of optimizing the existing content and also exploring other monetization methods outside of what's already there. So sounds great. All businesses have inherent risk with them. What would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I think the biggest risk is that it gets the majority of its traffic from Google. So that's always unpredictable. You don't know when the next update's going to roll around and how that's going to impact your traffic. With that said, this site has been built completely cleanly with no grey hat tactics whatsoever. It's followed the Google search rater guidelines to the absolute letter, so that nothing untoward should happen, but it is a risk because you're relying on one big company for a lot of your traffic. I suppose the other risk is that, will interest in the niche increase or decrease over the subsequent years? I don't know. That's a risk. The other thing is that it makes most of its money from advertising. If there was a big recession, if the economy really tanked, what would happen to ad rates? And there are also other things on the horizon with online advertising that might impact how much you earn from that. With that said, since I have the site, online earnings rates per 1,000 page views have generally increased. I can't honestly see much sign of that decreasing, but again, that's a risk that the buyer would have to take on.
Yeah, I think those are some really fair points for sure. I mean, just last few questions from me here, Andrew. How much support are you offering buyers?
I'm willing to negotiate as much help as the buyer would want. I'm more than happy to provide ongoing support for a month or a couple of months, video calls, phone calls, email support, really whatever the buyer needs to make a successful transition, I'm willing to provide.
Mm-hmm. And are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Absolutely. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
And are you open to negotiating something like seller financing, like an earn-out?
Yeah, I'm open to discussing all offers. Obviously, an all-cash offer would be a strong preference of mine, but I understand that certain buyers will have reasons for structuring deals in certain ways, and I'm open to all offers and happy to negotiate.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Last question really from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
This is a business worth buying because it's an evergreen niche that's been built really cleanly, that's been under-monetized, and I feel very confident that somebody coming in with the right expertise or the right team can significantly grow the traffic, the earnings from this site, and I hope it can be a real win-win for both of us.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
Well, the only thing I was going to mention that I didn't mention earlier is this site, I really see this site growing into a big pillar of the industry if the right buyer were to come on and grow it out. I think it has that potential. I'd love to see that happen. I can't do that because I'm on my own and I don't really want to grow out a big team. So there is a big opportunity. It's a big niche and I'm really only covering a sub-niche within that larger niche. So really this could be a really big site and have a lot of longevity. And it'll be very exciting to see where it goes over the next few years.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Really hope to see your business get picked up by the right buyer in the very near future.
Thanks very much, Vinny. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 54245. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.